Hello, I'm Elena, and I am excited to tell you about my life in Edinburgh. I want to tell you about my amazing language teacher. You can listen to my story and learn English with me. It was a beautiful autumn afternoon. I was traveling on a train. Two older gentlemen were on the train with me. The gentlemen sat directly opposite me. They spoke English. I didn't understand very much. I study English, but I was still a beginner. I didn't know many words. I decided to start speaking to the gentlemen. I said some words in my basic English. They were friendly and understood what I wanted to say. I was happy. I told them I really wanted to master English. The gentlemen told me they were from Scotland. They were returning home from a major engineering convention. Our conversation was short, only about 12 minutes long. The next station was my station. Said goodbye. The gentlemen gave me their business card and phone number. They told me that I should call them if I ever visited Scotland. Then we said goodbye. After this meeting, I worked on my English every single day. I translated short articles and I watched simple news clips in English. In 8 months, my English was much better. It was good, but I wanted to know more. I decided to go to Edinburgh. I wanted to study English in Scotland. When I was in Edinburgh, I went to a language institute. My first lesson was on Tuesday. I met my teacher and 7 other students in the class. My teacher was a kind gentleman named Mr. Wallace. He was very patient. We said our names. We said where we were from. Then the lesson started. Mr. Wallace had an interesting question for us. He wanted to know how we all studied English. Our teacher said that he could teach us a very effective method to learn English. He said this method was surprisingly simple. Our teacher told us that we didn't have to study grammar rules from books. We didn't have to use expensive textbooks. But we must use English constantly. This was perfect for me. I don't like studying rules and I don't like thick textbooks. Then we spoke about what is truly important when we learn a new language. Our teacher told us, we need languages for communication. Languages help us share our ideas and understand the ideas of others. So, when you learn a new language, the best method is to use the language for communication. And this is exactly what we will do in our course. We will speak a lot. Many students try to remember new words by making long lists. They also study grammar rules for hours. The problem is, these students don't use English for real speaking. They study about the language, but they don't use the language. Of course, you need to learn new words and new grammar, but you don't have to study them the traditional way. In this course, I want to show you a very simple and effective method on how to acquire words and grammar naturally. I liked what our teacher said very much. Our lesson continued. We spoke about our favorite books and what we do in our free time. We spoke in pairs or with Mr. Wallace. We spoke for the entire lesson. I loved it. I was genuinely happy. This method of learning was very good for me. I went to school on Wednesday again. One of the students, Pavel, asked a question which was important for me too. He asked, "What is the best way to learn new words?" Our teacher said there are many things you can do to learn new vocabulary. I will tell you what is statistically the most effective way for learning new words, he said. It is reading. When people read while they learn a new language, they learn twice as fast as people who don't read. It is good to read for at least 35 minutes every day. He continued, I want to show you what you should do if you want to get the maximum benefit from reading. First, it is very important that the book or text you read is interesting for you. You must enjoy reading it. The book can be a fascinating novel, or it can have some useful information for your work or your hobby. Do not read a text that isn't interesting for you. It is also good to choose a text in which you know most of the words, Mr. Wallace advised. When you don't know many words, you can get frustrated. You always want to enjoy everything you do while using English. When you read the text and you see a word you don't understand, you quickly look at the word in the dictionary. Then you continue reading. You don't have to write the word down. You don't have to create a list of new words. You don't have to try to memorize the word. You only concentrate on understanding the context. Reading also has another great advantage. When you read, you learn new words, and you also learn how every word is connected to others in the sentence. You can see how to link the words correctly. This way of learning new words is highly effective. Try it, he concluded, and you will see how fast you can learn new vocabulary. Then we continued with the lesson. We spoke about the culture in Scotland and about finding good student jobs. This was helpful for me because I needed a job. I wanted to do something after my school hours. I asked other students if they knew where I could find a job. They told me that I should go to a local community job center. They said the job center offers many part-time jobs for students. This was good news. When my day at school was finished, I went straight to the job center. I told the lady at the desk that I had no job experience. She told me they had some suitable jobs for students. She suggested I could be a kitchen helper or a waitress in a coffee shop. She said my English was good enough to work at the cafe. The training wouldn't be difficult, and she said I would have more chances to speak English there than as a cleaner. She told me that I could start my job on Friday. It was all excellent news for me. I was happy that I had a job where I could practice English. Remember, when you want to learn new words effectively, read for 35 minutes every day. On Thursday, I went to school again. There was one student in the class who was always quieter than the others. He was from Japan. When our teacher asked if we had any questions, this student, Kenji, spoke up. He said he had a big problem with pronunciation. He knew his pronunciation wasn't very good, but he didn't know how to improve it. He didn't speak much because he didn't want others to hear his bad pronunciation. He said that he read and watched videos in English a lot. He understood very well, but he desperately wanted to improve his speaking. He asked if there was something he could do. When Mr. Wallace heard this, he said, "Okay, I will tell you something important about pronunciation and how to practice it. I will also teach you a great technique that can help all of you. First, why do students have problems with pronunciation? When we speak, we have to move our mouth. We use muscles in our mouth. The issue is that when you speak English, sometimes you use your muscles the same way you would use them in your native language. Then your pronunciation is different from the pronunciation of native speakers." He reassured us. In fact, it is not a big problem because usually people understand what you want to say, even if your pronunciation is not perfect. However, you can certainly work on your pronunciation and make it much better. There is a great technique that can help you a lot. The name of this technique is shadowing. The technique is very simple. When you do shadowing, you simply copy the sound you hear at the same time you hear it. When children learn their first language, they learn it by copying. They copy after their parents again and again, and one day their pronunciation is perfect. You can learn English pronunciation the same way. Find a video or audio recording that is not too fast and that you understand well. You listen and you copy what you hear. That is all. Then our teacher went to YouTube, and he found a good video where the shadowing technique was clearly demonstrated. We watched the video. Then we all tried to do shadowing for about 4 minutes. Mr. Wallace told us, "Shadowing is also great when you are preparing for a public presentation and you want to have better pronunciation. Before the presentation, you can go to some place where you are alone and you can do shadowing for about 10 minutes. You will see how much it will help you to have clearer pronunciation during the presentation." This was very interesting for me. I had never heard about this technique before. When the lesson finished, I went to the school reception. I asked the lady if there were any sport activities at school. I wanted to play some sports in Scotland. The lady at the reception said, "Yes, we have a badminton team and a basketball team." She said, "The basketball team has practice today at 5:30. I was delighted because sport is very important in my life. I went to the practice. I met many players from different countries. Mexico, Korea, Russia, Spain, and Italy. I enjoyed the training. I was very happy that my time in Edinburgh was starting well. I had a great teacher and I also had some new friends from my basketball team. Also, tomorrow I am starting my new job. Remember, when you want to have good pronunciation, repeat after native speakers." On Friday I went to school again. We had a new student in our class. Her name was Sophia and she was from Portugal. At the beginning of the lesson, Mr. Wallace asked Sophia some questions. He knew Sophia because she had visited his class 2 years ago. It was a class for beginners, and it was only for 3 weeks during the summer. When Sophia spoke, her English was beautiful. Her pronunciation was excellent, and she was very fluent. Mr. Wallace was very happy and he told Sophia, "Your school in Portugal must be excellent." Sophia said, "I don't go to any traditional school. I learn English at home. I use the techniques I learned from you. I do a lot of reading, shadowing, and thinking aloud. I try to think more in English than in Portuguese. The 3 weeks I spent here helped me a lot. You showed me the way. I know how to work on my English every day. I was a beginner 2 years ago and now I can speak English. That is why I wanted to come back to your class." Mr. Wallace was very happy when he heard these words. He thanked Sophia for her hard work. This was all very interesting for me. I already knew about reading and I knew the shadowing technique. But Sophia also spoke about thinking aloud. I didn't know what it was. So I asked our teacher, "What is thinking aloud?" Mr. Wallace said, "It is a very effective technique. You have to have a strong motivation to learn English if you want to benefit from this technique. It is also good to know that for some people, this technique seems a little crazy. But when you start to think aloud, your English can become better very fast." I said, "I have a strong motivation. I don't care if the technique is crazy if it helps. I want to learn it. Can you teach us this technique?" "Okay, it is actually very simple," Mr. Wallace replied. "You think in your native language all day, every day. It is normal. Now you can start to think in English. And when you start to think in English, then you can think aloud. You simply say aloud what you think. That is all." I said, "It is very simple. Why is it so effective?" Our teacher said, "Maybe you can ask Sophia. She uses this technique. Maybe she can tell you more about her experience." Then Mr. Wallace asked Sophia if it was okay for her to speak about her experience with thinking aloud. It was no problem for Sophia. She said, "When I started with this technique, it wasn't easy. I started with very simple sentences. For example, I can speak English. It is good that I can speak English. I need to practice every day. I don't know many words, but I can use these words well. Can do this. This is great." The sentences were really simple. "But at the beginning there was one problem," Sophia continued. "My thinking in Portuguese was long and complicated. I wasn't able to say in English exactly what I was saying in Portuguese. I needed to find a simpler form for English. To think in simple English was the hardest part. But after some time, it was normal for me to think in English. Then something amazing happened," she said. "I met a woman from Canada. She was on holiday in Portugal. I was still a beginner, but we started to speak English. I could see that I was able to speak with her without big problems. My sentences were simple and short, but I was able to speak. I didn't translate in my head from Portuguese to English. After the meeting with a woman from Canada, I started to use thinking aloud more. This technique helped me a lot with my speaking. I still use it every day. It is truly a very effective technique." Mr. Wallace thanks Sophia for sharing her experience with thinking aloud. When you want to learn English, read, listen, and speak. Do each activity for 35 minutes every day. Wrapping up, take action. Thank you for listening to this story here on the English Listening Lab channel. We hope Elena's journey and her teacher's advice have inspired you. Remember, the most powerful way to make progress in English is to listen and use the language. If you apply the simple techniques from this story, reading, shadowing, and thinking aloud, your skill growth will be truly fast. Don't forget to subscribe to the English Listening Lab and give this video a like so you won't miss our next stories and lessons. Keep listening, keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next video.